College and Academy. I'm Adam Buckler. It's always been our practice at the close of camp meetings and revival to invite our evangelists up for a dinner together, and then at the close of that meal to allow our ministerial students to ask certain questions that would allow them to glean from their wisdom and years of experience. We're so glad today to have Reverend Harry Plank and Reverend Jeremy Fuller with us, as well as Sister Plank and Brother Growler, our own Bible professor here at UBC. And we're going to invite these young people to ask some questions at this time.
Blood, sweat, and tears. I can remember going to one prayer meeting where there was no one else. No one came. Of course, I wouldn't advise us going out to Pioneer Church on a whim. We were in the will of God. We had tent meetings. It was a process. We just didn't wake up one day and decide to go do it. But when you go to a town that has no church, no parsonage, no people, nothing, you've got to know you're in the will of God. But if you're in the will of God and you're willing to pray and you're willing to fast, anything can happen. And I wouldn't change the last 13 years, and even beyond that, the last 17 years of my experience in pioneering. And it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding to see what has happened over the past 13 years. And just a couple of short weeks ago, we had our 13th anniversary service, and to hear the children's choir and to look at the congregation that Sunday morning, and for my brother and I to stand there shoulder to shoulder and to know that God had led us, and that what we have today is a result of just blood, sweat, and tears, but that God has led us, and there's nothing that can. Of course, you can be in a regular church that's already been in existence for a long time and have all of that, but it's just so rewarding to be a pioneer pastor and to see how God has worked miracles, how He's moved mountains, and it is a rewarding life. But you got to know you're in the will of God.
With that, what was the most difficult thing you faced, and how did you overcome it?
Well, it's really difficult for me to narrow that down to the most difficult thing. I think the not having a building, not having a church is a huge thing. We rented a municipal building, so it was a public building. So we would have to go in on Saturday nights and set up chairs, set up the pulpit, set up the sound equipment, get everything ready. And then Sunday night after church, tear it all back down. Then we did that the next week. Then we did it the next week. Then we did it the next week. And after 5 years, after 60 months of going on Saturday night to set up church, you got to know you're in the will of God. For us to be able to purchase our building, we purchased a building for $150,000. It's a long story. I don't have the time to tell it here, but they wanted $240,000 for it. I knew we couldn't afford that. And through a process of about a year, praying about it, knowing that was the building we were to have, coming up with a down payment, arranging financing. When you're a pioneer pastor and you're looking at, you've been in place 5 years, you still don't have a building, and you need a building, you're ready to move to the next phase, $150,000, you don't have any parsonage, no church, Lord, where are you at, how are you going to move? But just, God was faithful. And today, 8 years later, after being in that new building, not new to, it's built in 1901, the education facility built in 1956, so it's not new by any stretch of imagination, but new to us. And at this point, I think we may own between $85,000 and $86,000, so we've been able to pay more than $75,000 in the principal. Our church currently has right around $40,000 in their accounts, so we're technically, we don't have too much further to go until we be completely out of debt. But that's a huge, finances in the church is a huge, huge issue, when you're starting from scratch and trying to gather a congregation together. And so, faithfulness and, being an example and giving before your people. My people know that I've given as much as I possibly could have over the last 13 years. I've led them in giving, and they've come alongside and have given and sacrificed. And so part of it is just by example, leading, saying, I can put my money where my mouth's at, and I'll be the first one to pledge, $1,000, and God has blessed that and helped us. And so faith is is the way we overcome.
We want to thank Brother Harry Plank and Brother Jeremy Fuller for sharing with our students and with you. And we invite you to join us again next week as these conversations continue.